Thank you for joining me for another enrichment with the Gifted Guy. What we're going to be talking about today is the idea of taking something that's abstract and making it more concrete. But before we can get to that point, we need to talk about what abstract and concrete mean so that we have a clear understanding of what we're talking about. When you think of abstract, you often think of art. So there's abstract art. So here's an example of an abstract art piece. So if you look at this, can you tell what this is trying to convey, what this is trying to show, what this is trying to do? Here's another example. And so this is another, and when you look at this one, try to figure out what is it trying to show? What is it trying to display? What feelings is it trying to capture? And then these are more concrete art. So even though they're not necessarily realistic, they're very concrete things. So you have this one right here, which is called Water Lily Pond, and it clearly is a water lily pond. And then you have this one right here, which is Luncheon of the Boating Party. In that, the boating party is clearly having a lunch. So it's very concrete. Unlike the first two, where you're not quite sure where it stands, more concrete paintings give you things that you can identify with, that you can say, this is that. The abstract uses a lot of different ways to express, and then you have to kind of translate or figure out. Another abstract concept is the idea of your feelings. And so feelings are something that we have every single day. And yet, how do we show those feelings? So feelings are very abstract. They're not something that you can point to and say, that is this. Now, we can certainly give clues. We can certainly act in certain ways. We can certainly, for example, here is a picture of the main characters from the film Inside Out. So there are 5 main characters. Each one represents a different feeling. Now, whether you've seen the movie or not, you can kind of determine what feeling they are based upon how they look, their color, their shape, any characteristics about them. So I want you to take a second and see if you can identify the 5 of them, the different feelings, and then I'm going to reveal what they actually are. The way that we typically classify abstract versus concrete is through the use of nouns. Now, commonly we know that nouns are a person, place, or thing. You can see examples here of people, you can see examples of places, you can see examples of things. All of these are concrete. So all of these are things that you can point to and say, this is that. This is a table. This is a doctor. This is a house. So, but in addition to those three, the nouns can also be an idea, which you see here. So ideas are things that cannot be necessarily pointed to. They are more abstract. And so we're going to watch this video on the difference between concrete and abstract nouns, just to give you an overview of what they are.
You know what a noun is? People, places, things, and ideas. But nouns come in two different types, and I'll demonstrate what each of them is like. First, you got your concrete nouns. They're physical, that's the key. Concrete nouns are everywhere. You smell, taste, touch, feel, and see. Abstract nouns are opposite. You can't see them, but they're all right there. Emotional ideas and the feelings that you share. Concrete nouns are physical, while abstract nouns aren't at all. See the candles, smell the cake, but what smell does excitement make? Concrete nouns are physical, while abstract nouns aren't at all. Touch the mirror, you can clearly see, but what's the taste of clarity? What's the taste of clarity? Calendar, that's a concrete noun. Year, that's an abstract noun. Clock, that's a concrete noun. Time, that's an abstract noun. Pillow, that's a concrete noun. Dream, that's an abstract noun. Bed, that's a concrete noun. Sleep, that's an abstract noun. Concrete nouns are physical, while abstract nouns aren't at all. See the bird, hear the tweet, but can you touch the fear in the worm he eats? Concrete nouns are physical, while abstract nouns aren't at all. You can touch the door, you can see the key, but what's the sound of privacy? Concrete nouns are physical, while abstract nouns aren't at all. You can see the monster, smell his feet, but what's the smell of bravery? What's the smell of bravery?
So hopefully now you have a pretty good understanding of what an abstract noun is versus what a concrete noun is. Now keep in mind, abstract nouns can become concrete. And so we're going to talk about the four different types of abstract nouns and how they can all become concrete. One is ideas. So ideas are in our head. They're very abstract. There's nothing we can physically point to. But sometimes those ideas can actually become something physical. So an invention is a perfect example. An invention is an idea first. So someone in their head says, I want to solve this problem. What can I create to help to solve this problem? And then they're an engineer or a scientist, they actually create this physical thing, this invention that took the idea and made it from abstract to something concrete that you could actually see. Qualities are another example of an abstract noun. So qualities are the qualities that we have as people, like honesty is an interesting quality that people possess. But how do you How's that become concrete? Well, you can show your qualities. So if you're someone drops their money and you pick it up and you give it back to them, that's an act of honesty. So these acts then become the concrete aspect of this abstract idea of these qualities. Experiences. Experiences are the things that we as human beings experience every single day. And these usually end up being memories. And so they're in our heads, we can see them, we can place them, but other people might not be able to because these experiences for us are very concrete, but for others they might be abstract. So one way to take it in from a abstract to a concrete is the use of photos. So you may remember something in your head like a trip to Disney World, and you can recall the feelings and all those abstract ideas, but then there may be physical photos of you at Disney World experiencing these things and seeing these things. And so that's how that can go from abstract to concrete. The last one I'm going to talk about, which is we kind of already talked about a little bit, is the idea of feelings and how feelings are very abstract, but they can be shown to be very concrete, either through symbols, it could be people, places, things, it could be colors. There are lots of ways that you can convey certain feelings. When we looked at those characters from Inside Out, the guy who was red, we obviously may have thought that he was anger because usually people see red when they get angry. That's a concrete way that we experience that feeling. So here's an example of some more abstract nouns that you can take a look at. And so you see there are really interesting ones in here, like trust. So how does that go from abstract to concrete? Indifference, which is not caring about something. How does that go from abstract to concrete? Stress, which we might experience all the time, but how do we take that the abstract to the concrete? How does it manifest itself? How does it become concrete? I'm going to take one of the most common feelings and try to show you how you can take it from an abstract idea to a concrete idea. So, that feeling, of course, is love, one of the most popular feelings that we experience. And love can come in many different forms. Um, and so, we're going to talk about how you can express love using concrete examples. So, one way is through symbols. So, you see this one right here. This is a heart. This is commonly the most thing that we associate with love, this heart, which is so interesting because when you look at an actual heart, it looks like this, which is not really something you want to be looking at. But we have created this symbol that represents love. So if we want to, so we send emojis with the hearts, or when we're writing a card to someone, or we're showing that we express love, we may use a heart to do that, either like a banner or whatever. Um, Another example is a rose. A rose represents love because it's something you give to someone that you love. You don't give them a cactus, you don't give them sunflowers, although you can do those things. But the one we commonly associate, especially at Valentine's Day, which is the holiday of love, is the idea of a rose. And so taking this rose and giving it is a symbol of the love. Now, the heart and the rose are both things, but can also represent a person can represent love. So it could be your mom or dad. You love your mom or dad, and they are representation of love. So it could be your husband or wife. And so you use these, like these, you see these rings right here. We use this as an example of the bond between two people and expressing that love. And then you can also use places. So you see here's the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower is one of the most romantic places on the planet. People go to Paris and they, to for their anniversaries and for different things to express love. The Eiffel Tower is as a place that people think of love. Now, sometimes symbols might be very specific to somebody. So, for example, you see here is a baseball, and you may say, what does that have to do with love? Well, I love baseball. I love the sport of baseball. I love to watch baseball. I love to follow baseball. It's something I'm very passionate about, but it's very specific to me. So if I use that symbol, it might be confusing to other people. So we have these universal symbols we talked about before, which were the heart, the rose, the rings, all those things. But we if we use things that aren't universal, people might be confused. Now, here's another example. So we have these shoes. Let me say, what are shoes? Why are shoes express love? Well, if you are with your wife and you are walking past a window shop and she says those shoes are beautiful, I wish I had those. And then as the husband, you go back and you get those shoes and you give them to your wife. That is an expression of love. She said something, you listened, and you are then expressing that love by these particular shoes. And every time she looks at those shoes, she'll think of that kind act, that loving act that you did. And so then that becomes very intimate between two people. But if you looked at the shoes, you may say they're just shoes. I don't love shoes. And so we do have to be careful about making sure that we use very universal symbols and scenes and colors and things, so that we can express what we're trying to express. Colors are a really good example. So you look at these colors, these are very much associated with love. When you look at Valentine's Day, again, the holiday of love, these are the colors that you see. But if I showed you these colors, you might think of another emotion rather than love. But for someone else, it might mean love because the blue, which is the ocean, blue, which is the sky. These are all things that can be loved. So it just but the common ones are these ones I showed previously. So when it comes down to looking at holidays, a lot of times holidays are an abstract idea. So let's take a holiday such as Thanksgiving. The idea of Thanksgiving is giving thanks, which again is a very abstract idea. But we can express Thanksgiving through various symbols. And so we see here a turkey, which is something we commonly eat. You see this cornucopia, which is something representing the fall, which is when Thanksgiving happens. You see this pilgrim, because this is the people that first celebrated um, the Thanksgiving holiday with the Native Americans that you see here. So these people represent um, an idea of Thanksgiving. Could be a place. So you could show like something like this, which the dinner table, which is kind of a place, and that's where many people gather. Or could be this right here. You're watching a football game. Football is very popular on Thanksgiving. So these people, places, and things can all represent the holiday. And so the last thing I'm going to talk about when we're going from abstract to concrete is the idea of your thinking, because thinking styles can be abstract and concrete. And as students, you have lots of ideas in your head, lots of creativity in your head. But how do you take that abstract and make it into the concrete to demonstrate this? And so here's a very simple example. So we see these thinking styles, and we're looking at the creative versus logical. So logical is very much something so logical could be a cause and effect in history. It could be something where something's following the laws of science in science class. It could be a math problem where 2 plus 2 equals 4. There's a logic to that. It could be in a story that you're reading in language arts. The story follows a logical storyline or a flow to it. The more abstract version of this thinking is creativity. And so you can take creativity again and turn it into something concrete, but it starts very much as an abstract idea. So if you're told to show creativity, what does that look like? How do you demonstrate that? How does that work? And so when you look at what it actually might look like, so solutions to actual physical problems are an example of concrete thinking. So you had a problem, you solved said problem physically, and people can see the solution to that problem. The idea, though, of like guessing or hypothesizing, and I don't want to say guessing, but I do want to say the idea of you're trying to determine what it might be, but you're not quite sure what it might be. So theories, these are all abstract ideas. They're not something that we can necessarily point to, they're necessarily that we can see in front of us, but it's a very abstract way of thinking. And so the thing that you have to ask yourself is, how can you take abstract either ideas or feelings, qualities, experiences that you have, and turn them into something that is concrete?